Let's go, girls. Welcome to Talk Wealthy to Me. I'm Michelle Taylor, founder of Women in Wealth. From breaking money myths to building wealth and achieving financial freedom, we're here to empower you to create your own path. Talk Wealthy. Now, join the conversation and let's change the way women think and feel about money. Okay, ready? Welcome to Talk Wealthy to Me and our live from Mallard Hall Estate series. In this episode, I sit down with Sarah Michelle Boes. Sarah Michelle Boes is a nurse, educator, entrepreneur, and philanthropist who founded Sarah Michelle NP Reviews, one of the leading nurse practitioner board prep services. After growing her company to impact over 40,000 students with a 99% success rate, she exited her business in a multi-million-dollar deal. She's also a passionate advocate for mental health and education and congenital heart disease. From anxiety to millionaire, Sarah Michelle's journey proves that overcoming self-doubt and taking bold risks can lead to extraordinary success. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of Talk Wealthy to Me. I'm so excited today to have you hear from a very inspiring woman, Sarah Michelle Boes. So welcome to the podcast. And I would love to hear about your story.
I feel like I have lived 5 lifetimes. In the last 5 years, it has been a wild ride. But to try to encapsulate it, in 2020, I graduated nurse practitioner school. I had no aspirations of having a business ever. In fact, my husband kept encouraging me, like, we should do a trucking business because he was a semi-truck driver at the time. Or we should do this. And I'm like, business is so risky. I'm just not even in my wheelhouse. But when I graduated nurse practitioner school and it was during COVID, I felt really unmet by the review courses that were out there.
Yeah.
And they thought that they could take whatever they were doing in person and just pivot it online and it would be the same. And it absolutely was not. And there was this added layer too of I had massive exam day anxiety. But some of the review courses literally had slides that were like, test anxiety doesn't exist. If you fail, it's on you.
Oh my gosh.
Only increased my anxiety that I was already having, because for people outside of this sphere, this exam is make or break. Like, you spend tons of time in school, lots of money to get this degree, but if you don't pass, there's nothing you can ever do with it. And so you have to pass this exam, and that is a lot of pressure. But all that being said, after I passed, the very next weekend, I was like, I feel like I could do this differently and do this better. And I had more free time than I'd ever had in my life. And so I made a 3-hour course. I put it into a Facebook group and I gave it to my classmates for free. And I was like, just tell me what you think and invite one person into this group. And so I gave it to my first 100 people for free. Everybody was super excited about it. And I had my first person pass within a couple of days, and they came in the group and they posted about it and they championed the course and all this like wonderful transformation that they underwent of how they managed their anxiety when they took the test. And so I think when people think about my test prep business, sometimes they think about the clinical content or how it was presented or all those things, but it's not that at all. It was all about your mental health and how you manage your anxiety and really just like how you build up confidence in yourself to take this exam. And that resonated a lot with people, especially during a time of uncertainty like COVID. And the first day that I went to sell the courses, which people were paying me on Facebook Messenger through Venmo and Cash App, it was a very like basic experience. I made $1,000 in a day. And for me, like that was a mind-blowing, breaking moment because like oftentimes I didn't make $1,000 in a week as a nurse.
It was your first taste of entrepreneurship.
Oh, yes. And I was immediately hooked. I was like, ooh, like what if I made $1,000 in a day, like every day? Like that would be the dream, the life, especially too, because I come from Eastern Kentucky, which is one of the poorest areas of the entire country. So I had lots of money stories that were definitely wired into me through my parents. But that business, I ended up becoming a millionaire in 7 months, which was insane.
That is insane. How much were you selling the course for?
Originally, it was $25 for lifetime access to a 3-hour course. And then about 6 months in, I pivoted to a subscription model for the courses.
That is incredible.
Yeah, it was wild. And then right at the 2-year mark, I went on to sell that business and had an 8-figure exit, which, especially being from Kentucky, was such incredible life-changing money for us and really pivoted a lot of things. But I will say, even before we sold, we were already redefining like what wealth looked like for us, what success looked like for us. My husband is definitely a part of this equation too.
Mm-hmm.
And we already had a lot of the things that we wanted and needed. And so even through the exit, like a lot of our life actually hasn't changed that much based on what we were doing before we sold the business. But there's definitely a stark difference of before the business started and after the business, because I was a bedside nurse. He was a semi-truck driver. And so money was something that like we almost like weren't even exposed to.
I don't even know where to begin with this.
There's a lot of layers.
There's so many layers, because I think that what you said was so amazing, that life didn't change entirely. I feel like so many people think if I can just make this amount, my life will change. And maybe it will in some capacities, but I think that people need to understand, again, that money is just a tool. It's what you do with the money and the time and all of the things that that tool allows you that it didn't before. So, what is your favorite thing that has changed for you is something that we would all like to know.
For me, it's being able to give to the causes that I love and I care about, and I would do in small incremental ways before we had money, but I can really do on a massive scale now. So last summer, we were actually able to do a $15 million gift to our local children's hospital. And that was really pivotal and really important for us because it's actually the hospital that saved our daughter's life. And so that's kind of a different part of my story. My daughter has congenital heart disease. She was born with 4 different heart defects. But being able to not only give back, but really feel like I'm impacting change in the world of congenital heart disease has been the most incredible part of the whole business experience for me.
I just am so touched by your story, because you went into this expecting to be a nurse practitioner. God shined a light and blessed you with an opportunity and the wherewithal to not only change your life, but hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that are now able to take and prepare for a test that will change their lives. And then additionally, gave you a sweet girl that needed extra care. You had the means to do it, but now you also had a magnifying glass, because it is such a beautiful story. I have goosebumps.
Yeah, it's really cool to be able to have a platform as a heart mom. And I feel like I'm in such a unique position to be a nurse practitioner and have like this entrepreneurial mindset and know how to build an audience and build a platform and then be able to use that to shine that light on congenital heart disease too, because not everybody has that opportunity.
No. And that is one area that I will say the tool of money comes in handy, is in regards to healthcare. Having resources that don't feel limited makes it a lot easier.
Well, just like even the time flexibility, I think
Sure.
about that all the time because I sold the business in June of 2022. I found out Meta was going to be sick in July. She was born in August. And so I was able to take true dedicated time off to be with her. I mean, me and my husband literally lived in the hospital together with her 24/7. And that was really impactful for us as parents to not have to worry about like, who's going to go to work today, where are our bills going to be paid, those sorts of things. But it was also really impactful to her care to have someone that was an expert on her and all of her nuances and her personality, because that definitely impacted how we were able to make decisions about how we were going to move forward too.
Wow. So, what does life look like today for you? Do you find yourself drawn back to that entrepreneurial path, or are you just enjoying the fruits of your labor?
as a heated topic in my house because my husband was bit by the entrepreneurial bug really, really hard. And he's really excited to now kind of live his own journey. As I said, we live in Kentucky. So he is opening up his own contract bourbon distillery.
That's exciting.
Yeah, really exciting, but totally different from my business in every way to like make physical products, all the regulations that come around it. So it's slow. And for me, I like to move fast. And so when he originally thought about doing the distillery, I thought we would work together. And it has been a long 2-year process just to get to the point of making bourbon.
Yeah.
And that is not for me. But I think all the time I want to have another business. And for me, like I really want to have a lifestyle business this time. It's very important to me to have the flexibility to be present with my daughter in the way that I want to be and be able to show up and have capacity and not have my business run my life because my business kind of ran my life before.
Sure.
I just don't know exactly what that is yet. So I'm kind of in this in-between period. And while I'm figuring out what that next business will be, because I mean, I'm 30, I'm definitely going to have another business.
You've got plenty of time. That's right.
I'm really leaning into this advocacy work and journey with my daughter. And so, for example, this spring, I was nominated by the American Heart Association for the Women of Impact campaign.
Congratulations. That's
Thank
a big
you.
deal.
It was really, really cool. I was like, oh, like really me? Like you guys want me? But through that campaign, my hope is to bring a lot of awareness to congenital heart disease because what most people don't know, and I didn't know even when I became a nurse practitioner, is that it is the most common birth defect worldwide. So 1 in 100 babies will have congenital heart disease, but it's also one of the least funded. And so I think this is a really like unique time to be in this campaign and be able to talk about congenital heart disease and really like bring a voice and a story to it too. Because I think like once you see my daughter Meadow, and she's 2.5 now, and she is wild and curious and playful and all over the place. But like once you can see her and kind of look at her story and how far she's come and what she's going to be up against in the future, because she's up against more surgeries in the future unless medicine catches up to her, it really like it helps paint the picture of why this is an important issue and why we talk about it so much.
Yeah, I love the fact that, again, God has given you this path that has allowed you to take a breath, be there for her. And you're 30. Like you said, you've got plenty of time to figure out what your next cause and mission will be. And that's something that so many women have to do all the time is pivot. And a lot of times those pivots come because of a failure. And I think for you, what's been so amazing is you've gotten to pivot because of successes. And that's not always the case. So you mentioned something a little while ago about the money baggage that came with coming from a poor place in the United States. What are some things that you can call out that may help some of the people listening, or things that you may want to teach Meadow so that you're stopping that negative money relationship correlation before it can begin?
I think about this a lot, and I think it's something I'm definitely still navigating and still trying to figure out resources for, because it was just like so embedded in me by my parents. There's never enough money. Like it doesn't matter if, perfect example, I sold my business, awesome, most beautiful day of my life. I was so excited. And my mom's like, but when are you going to become a physician? And I'm already a nurse practitioner. And I just had this big exit, and she knew how much I sold for, but like she couldn't think that way. She was like, how can you make sure that you're set up for security and success in the future? I'm like, but I already am. But she can't articulate that for herself. And so I really had to start deconstructing, okay, how do I view money? I view it to be an inherently bad thing. Like it has this negative connotation around it all the time. And so how can I have conversations with Meadow about money that are meaningful, but not fear-mongering or scary, or that there will never be enough? On the flip side of that, though, how do we make sure Meadow's not entitled? And so I think that's going to be kind of the push and pull and the tug of war that we figure out too as she grows up.
So as a young girl going into the work of a nurse practitioner, was the security around the financials that come with a job like that part of the decision-making process, or were you always drawn to that career?
Oh, no, it was definitely a big part of it, because what I saw with nursing was I saw career stability, which was important. I really actually wanted to be a teacher, but my parents are teachers and they're like, they don't make enough money. But it's funny. I was just talking to my husband the other day, like teachers and nurses make about the same amount of money.
So underpaid.
Yeah, there's layers there too.
I also wanted to be an elementary school teacher for a time growing up and quickly realized that was not the path, but they're underpaid.
Yeah, they're absolutely underpaid. But when I thought about being a nurse practitioner, the first thought was always, I'm going to double my income. And, we kind of talked about earlier, like I went through a big exit, but my life didn't change that much. And it's because I felt like my life changed when we hit $100,000. And I know that doesn't sound like very much money, but for us to have the security of $100,000 and be able to be more flexible with our time and more flexible just to do the things that I inherently love to do, like travel. Like before we had Meadow and she was sick and kind of all that entails. I mean, we used to travel once a month, if not more, just because that's what we love to do. Yes, because we could. And I could work from anywhere doing my business. I remember teaching a life study group from Disney World one time because I was just like, this is where I want to be right now, but I still like have to grow my business at the same time.
That's awesome. And it goes back to, again, you saying now you want to build a lifestyle brand, and it's what the tool that money can provide. And you said something else that's really interesting. People think that once they hit a big number, it's going to change their lives. And you lived it firsthand. I think once you make that 6-figure mark, it's like a collective sigh of relief. But then from like 100,000 to like 300,000 or 400,000, whatever that invisible line in the sand is, things don't really change. You're just able to buy something at the grocery store that's like not the brand of the grocery store, right? Your name brand shopping, it doesn't matter. But where you really then see that big jump is a really big milestone. And I think that also can inhibit people from making good money decisions. Obviously, in your case, it was a much bigger number. But what I have found with so many women that I've spoken to is when you've got enough money to make those small adjustments, but you don't have enough to make the other big adjustments, that's where you're spending really more than you should be. You're not necessarily as intentional about saving because it's the sweetness of this life that you've worked so hard for without thinking, okay, but what's the next hurdle? So I do think that really understanding money and how it's working for you is so important. And it's something that you've obviously done really well at understanding.
Well, I think it's something we're still figuring out too, because when we originally had the exit and we started like thinking about like where we're going to put our money and like what's going to go here and what's going to go there, that completely derailed when we found out Meadow was sick. We put it in an account and we didn't look at it for 6 to 7 months until she made out of the hospital. And so that money just sat there. It didn't make any more money. It didn't do anything for us, but we were in such a point of just like, we have to survive.
Yep.
And just for a little bit of perspective too, like in between Meadow's first surgery, which she had 6 days old, by the way, and her second set of surgeries, what came when she was 4 months old, I brought home a baby that's oxygen saturation at a baseline was 75%.
Oh my word.
And so we quite literally had a blue baby in our house, and money conversations went out the door. Like there was just no capacity for it. None of it mattered at that point. I was like, it's great to have it. I really don't care about it right now.
No, because it's allowing you to be present with your daughter. And again, something that I've mentioned so many times and that will always be a resounding theme in this podcast. Wealth does not just mean money. Wealth is truly your health as well. And I think what a juxtaposition of being gifted with this, a massive amount of wealth on the financial side, but then also seeing this reminder that it means nothing if you don't have your health. And especially being a new mama for the first time. I mean, my kiddos were both born premature for no other reason than just to keep life exciting from the beginning. But being in the NICU, did you all have a NICU journey?
Yeah, we were in the NICU for 6 weeks. And then they call it interstage time. So we were home for a couple of months. And then her patch went bad over Thanksgiving. And so we emergently went to her second round of surgeries, and we lived in the cardiac ICU for about 2 months after that.
Yeah. I mean, no one prepares you for that.
No.
And at least you did have about a month, it sounds like, that you knew that she was going to be having some challenges.
Mm-hmm.
But my word, when you're sitting in that NICU or the ICU, none of the money matters. What it does give you is a moment and a chance to breathe and not focus on how you're paying the bills. And imagine how your life would have been different.
Me and my husband actually talk about that a lot. And that was kind of what started the conversation about the donation to the Children's Hospital, because we knew how many families wanted to be there like we were there, but did not have the resources to be able to do that. And so part of our donation was specifically geared at giving back to patient families to ideally do patient family support, give them a little bit more flexibility. And then the other piece was, of course, supporting the innovation and all the different things that they're doing down there too, because at our local children's hospital, they are so creative in their approach, and we are so appreciative of that fact. And we think it's going to make a difference for Meadow in the future too.
You know, I had my uncle's children, a step cousin, I'm not going to overcomplicate it, that lost one of their kiddos at 5 to a brain tumor, DPIG, which is, terminal. And it's hard to look at the positive side of this. There is no positive other than what you just said, in that you have this incredible gift that you were able then to shine a bright light on a cause that needs funding. They did the same thing. And it's amazing what a little bit of attention can do for a cause. I know in their situation, I just read an article that, and I don't know if this is still the case, it was a couple of months ago, but they have the first child that they're considering cured from DPIG.
Wow.
And you have to wonder if that came from some of the financial support that the family gave to the cause. And hopefully that's the case for what you guys have gone through and what so many other families are hoping for.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're hoping. And actually, when we sold the business, we were kind of set up for life, just to be honest. And so when my husband started talking about creating this distillery, I was like, what are you doing? Why are we doing this? We have enough, all these things. But his inherent goal was for us to be able to donate more money and do bigger things and sell this for a really big amount. So I'm very excited for that part of the distillery. The building part's hard.
Let him have his,
you do
his
you, babe.
exit and all of those fun things.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've been dying to ask you this. When you had this exit, knowing your background, I'm assuming you didn't have a big financial team in place to help you navigate. So something that I talk about within the women in wealth community all the time is about building your board of directors, your personal team that guides you so that you don't have to teach things to yourself or find a relationship really quickly. It's all about building out the team. How did you do that? What did that look like when you knew the sum of money that was coming to you? Now you've got life-changing money. Who do you trust? I'm sure people are coming out of the woodwork to say, well, I've got a guy that can help you. How did you navigate that to make sure that you were setting yourself up to never have to worry about money again?
That was actually probably the hardest part, to be honest, because I don't know a ton of people that have exited a business, especially not this young. And that also is a whole different layer to the money conversation and how you're going to invest and all those things. But I have been involved in a couple of female founder networks. And so I just started reaching out to people. I'm like, even if you've had a small exit, I would love to hear who you've talked to and what you've done with the money. And so we kind of went through this information gathering period. And something that I feel like I'm really good at is connecting with different people. I always find the right human somehow, some way. And so I found someone who had been through a really big exit, much larger than mine. And she was like, you could use a boutique firm and this is what that would look like, and gave me a reference. She's like, or you could use a really big JP Morgan or something like that. And so me and my husband just started interviewing different teams, also with her perspective and lens on it of you might want boutique for this, but you want something bigger for this. But we ultimately, especially because we were in the throes of Meadow being sick, like
Sure.
we were like, we're just going to do like the big stable team. And they have like 5 or 6 different people. And something that was really important to me was that there was female representation on that team too. I did not want to work with all men. And actually, before I sold my business, every vendor we had but one was female. So that was a big deal and a big sticking point, but we figured it out. We found it.
I mean, no offense to the boys,
No,
right?
no.
We love the boys, but I do take such pleasure in setting up these teams for my clients that are made up of all women, CPAs, bookkeepers, business attorneys, estate planning attorneys, PNC insurance, like build the team that we never got to see so that Meadow will see it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the best part of being able to go into a community and find the right resources, gather the information, and build out your dream team.
Yeah.
When you were thinking through that, was there one thing when you decided on your team? And I know obviously with Meadow being sick, it was hard, but what gave you the warm and fuzzies? Was there that one thing that you felt heard or seen or that they did differently to stand out?
For me, I feel like before my exit and even through the process of building my business, I did not have a lot of financial literacy for myself because my parents do not have financial literacy. I mean, they are teachers, they have college degrees, but it was very much kind of like a figure it out. They invested $1,000 in the stock market one time. That's their only experience with the stock market because they lost that money and they're like, we'll never do this again. But for me, that one thing was someone who would be able to talk to me and present things in bite-sized, like digestible, like things I could truly inherently understand. That was more important to me than anything else. Like I didn't necessarily care if it was boutique or big or whatever. I want to understand for myself what is going on with my money. My husband is very math brain, so it would be really easy to just like let him take the reins on the money all the time. And I'm like, no, I want to understand it too.
Oh my
like
God.
I want to make decisions
that
too.
Just gives me goosebumps and makes me so proud of you because it is important. It doesn't matter that you have an opportunity that you don't need to understand it, but really saying, but I need to understand it because that's how we break the generational cycle of now Meadow not understanding it or nieces or other young girls. And I know that I like to tell clients when I'm working with them on like the private side of my practice, I'm going to explain this to you like we have crayons in our backpack. Because listen, nobody wants you to throw big terms, big words at them to show how smart you are. The reality is everybody in the financial space is dealing with the same tools. It's how they can get creative to build something out that is meaningful for you and your family. So I think that finding somebody that will take the time and just explain it to you like your friends having coffee is a game changer.
Yeah, it makes all the difference.
So for everyone listening, I know that you've touched my heart so much with just the cause that you are passionate about. Where can people find you and keep up with all of the good work that you're doing?
You can find me on pretty much every social media outlet at this point. I'm on a big LinkedIn rampage right now, might be the way to put it.
I love that.
I'm rebuilding community there outside of my business, which is really fun for me. But I think like if you want to connect with me human to human, which by the way, I love to do, if you go to the Heart Mom section of my website, I feel like that's really where my heart is and what I'm working on right now. And you can find ways to either reach out to me personally or figure out how to connect with congenital heart disease.
Thank you so much for all of the work you're doing, genuinely, and for spending time with us today. And I think, ladies, the biggest takeaway from this is you never know when that big idea is going to hit you. And it's not only changed Sarah's life, but her family's, the people in this town that know you, people that she will never meet. And so I just want to encourage you to do the work, find the resources. You know, you can always drop a DM, reach out to me. I'm happy to give you the resources that you need to find the right team to put in place, but don't let where you came from and what your relationship with money is now hold you back from something that could be so much bigger. So, as always, I want to thank all of you for being here. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, bring as many relationships to this podcast as possible, because we get to talk to people every day that are creating their future and changing the narrative. So, here's to next time. And thank you again so much for joining us and sharing your story.